Are you looking for inspiring conversations about faith, film, and life? You're in the right place. Here's the host who knows the right questions to ask, Father Edward Looney.
Hey everybody, it's Father Edward, and today I'm very excited to be having a conversation with Erin Dooley, who is a screenwriter and a producer. She actually has been doing a podcast. She did season 1 last year, and now this year is season 2, so it's kind of like a yearly release of a podcast with seasons and episodes and such. It's called Confessions of a Catholic Single. Last year, I talked to her and released the video on social media, YouTube, whatnot. This year, we're going to the podcast audience and again on social media and YouTube and such. So, hoping to share and spread Confessions of a Catholic Single. So, thanks so much, Erin, for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit again about Confessions of a Catholic Single. Where did the concept come from? Why did you want to create this show, and why a second season?
Yeah, well, the show centers on Cecilia. She's a devout Catholic widow in Vegas. And so, on the urging of her best friend, who is a priest, and his little sister, that she gets back out to dating. And so, that was what season 1 kind of followed her trek as she re entered. And I am a Catholic single. And so, just in that idea of if you had been married for a long time and then re-entering it, and how much the world has changed, and so many people that don't have their faith as a big part of their lives that you might meet when you're dating. And so it makes it a unique experience to be dating in today's world. So and just to laugh and poke fun is, yeah, life just continues to amuse me. And so I thought of this idea, and I always had liked like the old time radio shows when I was young. I didn't listen to a lot of them, but I remember a teacher had us listen to one, and I just thought that was super interesting, having all of the sound effects and how your brain kind of fills in all those details. So yeah, so when I had this idea, and podcasts were getting popular, so I put together 7 episodes, and then we had a Christmas special, and which is a full episode. A couple of people have thought it was just like us talking as a cast and crew, and it's a full episode. So, um, and and then the cast was all game to do another season, and I just had some new ideas, and
Hmm.
they're fun characters, and we had some good responses to the first season, so thought we would go for season 2.
Yeah, these old time radio shows are popular in the past, of course. I remember I grew up in Oconto, Wisconsin, and the local radio station was 107.1. It was WOCO. It was basically like a guy who had a hobby of radio work, starting a station, serving the local community. But they used to play, I know, some of those old time shows that you're talking about. So I listened to them in the car when my grandma would drive me somewhere or whatever during maybe it was like the 6 o'clock hour or whatever. But even that kind of genre has entered into the podcasting world. There are lots of different networks that have kind of shows that they're carrying out a storyline, and it's kind
Mhm.
of like that radio show format, telling a story, having an audience, having the characters and that character development. So what you're doing is really, kind of on par with what's happening out there in the world of podcasting and listenership and whatnot today. So uh,
Yeah, there's a lot more. When I searched this season for sort of comparable scripted comedy shows, I found a lot more this time around than when I had done the first season, was seeing what else was out there. So it's definitely picking up, and everything old is new again. So people are doing these kinds of shows a little bit more.
So in the show and in the podcast, in these episodes, you kind of obviously introduce different ideas. The first season, it was about the 7 deadly sins. The second season is about the 7 corporal works of mercy. So where do you get your ideas from in order to incorporate them into the storyline and so forth? So how do you get your inspiration as you write one of these episodes?
For the first season, excuse me, the Seven Deadly Sins is, uh, I guess, sort of like low hanging fruit, just because a lot of people know them, even if they're not Christian, they may have heard of them. Um, and that idea that that's something that's a thing. And they're so broad, the Seven Deadly Sins. And I purposely did for that season try to have some times where it's not the first thing you might think of with those, and have like each character have something. And so I wanted to continue to have some sort of, catechesis in a way, where, telling people about something that they might not know. Fewer people perhaps know about the works of mercy. Definitely, non-Catholics may not realize that that's something that we have. And so, yeah, I looked at a couple of different ones. I wanted around the same number of episodes, so I was going to do the spiritual works of mercy, and they didn't fit quite as readily, for what I wanted to say. And definitely some of the episodes are quite loose. It's not really that tied in. It's more,
Mm.
like give a drink to the thirsty. That episode, Agnes is, just trying to do her like bartender channel on YouTube. So that's just drinking, but it's not really giving drink to the thirsty like the actual one. So there is, some comedy, of course, in how they play out. Um, but and then it gave a theme, the priest, because I also wanted to have, ever since season one, and then more so also in season two, to have the priest be someone who had some life of his own, to show that, priests aren't just, I don't know, that they're real people. They have struggles, they have, humor, they have all, different sides of them, like everybody does. And so the running gag is all these ministries, which plays off of the works of mercy. So his pastor is making him lead all of these, and they range from the mundane to the preposterous as the season progresses. So I definitely had fun with that. And But yeah, so just to have that. And then, um in both, so Cecilia is the main character, and then Agnes is, her roommate, and so either one of them could have, something to do with that theme for the episode of the works of mercy. And so, yeah, it's just a lot of brainstorming and seeing what would make a good arc for them. They each have a definitive arc over the season.
So Cecilia, as you mentioned, is the main character. She's the one going to confession to her brother, the priest, Father Paul. Cecilia experienced the loss of her husband, and that's why she's single. And then, as Cecilia's entering into the dating world, she realizes, well, I really love Dimitri, who was a longtime friend. And so they're trying to navigate this relationship as season two unfolds. So, um, yeah, I guess it's interesting just kind of how Cecilia as the widow, yeah, how Cecilia as the widow, that she um, is always kind of living in the past of that relationship. And then Dimitri kind of senses that and feels that too. And so there's something there. So I think you're really touching on something that individuals really do experience in kind of this scenario. I think it could be relevant to someone who might find themselves in that situation themselves.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely a lot of experiences that I heard, from other people who had dated, widows or widowers. Um, that balance of having compassion, empathy, sympathy, all of those things, and trying to hold space for that, um, former spouse of theirs, but then also saying, but I'm here now, and how that looks. And it is very delicate. And to that both people have very valid feelings, and trying to see how that does play out. Because I think that in a lot of TV shows or movies, you don't necessarily see a lot of these day to day, the minutia of things that might come up. And so I wanted to have that. So it's a little bit, more serious in that aspect, that it they're in a relationship. So, season one was the humor of her going on all these dates and having these crazy things happen. And then this one's like, okay, yeah, she's settled in. She and Dimitri are in a relationship. And then how does that work? And, but, there's obviously still humor, but it's very real. And I wanted to draw all these characters to be very authentic and, yeah, to have some people feel like, oh, that's a real situation, and because that would draw people in more. So yeah.
Do we know how Cecilia's husband, Frank, how he died? Is that revealed in the episodes?
Um, I don't think I ever specifically said it. Sometimes I forget, what the backstory I have notes on and I've
Sure.
created as what has been revealed in season one or two. So no, I
And
don't think it actually ever was talked about. That's interesting that I
do
never
you
did.
as do you as the creator know how Frank died in your creative genius in mind?
Yeah, it wasn't like
Sure.
overly traumatic, but it was yeah, I have to, yeah. It's not like a secret per se, but it's
Yeah.
not like, because there are some where, yeah, if it was completely out of the blue, that can impact the widow in one way, if it was long time coming in a different way, if it was, God forbid they, took their own life, or where if it was a violent death, learning more about
Yeah.
that definitely plays in. So it's an interesting question. But yeah, that's not really addressed in the show.
Yeah, I imagine maybe, if there's season 3 or season 4, there
Yeah.
could be some more retelling of who Frank is and getting to know him as kind of a backstory underneath all
Hmm.
of this, maybe, I
Yeah.
think. So
Yeah.
possibilities are endless, I guess, as you
Yes.
create a show and as you're writing and whatnot. The cast, they come together. You have some great names. You have like Katie Bonenhammer, you have Christine Jezik. Hopefully I'm saying their names right, but you've brought together a great cast, and what's their experience been of the whole affair of doing this? Have they enjoyed it? Do they get along? Do you come together in a room and then you record in like a studio, or are you recording remotely from all the different places with mics hooked up to computers? And yeah, I guess what's that all look like?
Yeah, this season was a little bit different. Season one, it was a little bit, we did have some recording sessions with like the four main characters, but there was a lot of people that sent it in, and which happened as well for the guest stars. They sent in a lot of it. But this year we were in one of the actors who plays Dimitri has a recording space, and so we were able to utilize that. And Katie, who plays Cecilia, she was going to be going out of town, and we had started, we have a text thread with the three the actresses, and someone's like, oh, Saint Cecilia's feast day is coming up, we should do a novena to her. So, and this was we knew, like, I was like, okay, the episodes are almost done, just, I was getting notes from people, and so we did that novena. And then Katie was going to be leaving town earlier than I thought, and so I was like, well, we have to record this before you leave. And five people with very busy schedules were somehow available the very next day. And so we were able to all meet and bang it out. So yeah, so we recorded all together, the main characters. And yeah, everyone's, laughing and having a good time, but there's so much because it's 7 episodes, and these episodes are longer than the first season. The first season, they were probably like 10 to 12-minute episodes, and these, some of them get to like 20 minutes, particularly the later episodes. So we had basically a full-length movie to record. We had a lot to get, so it was like finding that balance always of, okay, yes, we enjoy each other's company and we're laughing and this is fun, but also we need to move on. So I have to be a bit of a taskmaster in the recording booth. But yeah, we all have a good time. And one scene, actually, Katie, Kristen, and I were out after a networking event, when I was just thinking about what was going to be in the series, and then something that we had joked about there ended up being in the series. So yeah, we all, yeah, get along and see each other at different like networking events, and have different events together. So, yeah.
Yeah, obviously, this is scripted. It's written, so you've written the screenplay, if you will, for Confessions for each episode. Obviously, you probably don't need to memorize the script. You could probably just record reading it, but I'm
Mhm.
sure there's rehearsal that individuals did, advanced reading, etc. Do you do several takes? Or is it one and done, or well, again, kind of just behind the scenes of how it all goes?
Yeah, we had a rehearsal over Zoom, just because everybody's kind of everywhere in LA, so to make it easier. And gave notes, and everybody kind of then knew how the performance that I was looking for. And then when we were there, we would do a couple of takes. But yeah, people all had their scripts in front of them. And so yeah, no, they didn't really have to memorize anything. But yeah, so that's how we were doing that.
Yeah. And then, another thing that I noticed through your social media and such is that, there are parishes that have hosted Confession of Catholics single events. And I don't know if it's meant to bring together singles or if it's meant to talk about, dating or whatever, but it seems like, you've been able to put your podcast in front of people at some sort of different events. So tell me a little bit about how people maybe could use this in their own parish.
Yeah, thanks. I have put together kind of like people have heard of Lectio Divina, where they read the Bible a few times slowly and see kind of what the Holy Spirit is revealing to them. So I have what I call an audio divina, where they listen to it, and then there's reflection questions that are a mix of both dating and then whatever sort of Catholic issues are in that episode, talking about the corporal work of mercy for that particular episode. And so a little bit more geared towards young adults, because that's just the population that is, has a higher percentage of people that are single that may be looking to talk about dating. But just have people think about how we maybe date differently, and the things that we should be thinking about when we are dating as a Catholic, to try to find good Catholic spouses. And so yeah, so that's available to any parish, and it doesn't have to be for their young adult group if they have other groups of Bible studies, but a lot of them, that's kind of the groups that are already formed. So they can just contact me. It's a free resource and that they can use. I just ask people to basically post on social media with the group, and just tag the show so that we can just see who else is doing it. And yeah, so that's an option. And we're having a premiere this Saturday. I'm not sure when this will be, but on a couple of days before the premiere. So the show comes out on Valentine's Day, also Ash Wednesday this year. And so the Saturday before, we're having a paint and sip night, and it's also the premiere night. So the actors and I will be painting, and anybody else that comes. So kind of a different, fun little premiere paint and Pinot night.
Oh, very good. And in the background will be the episodes as they play.
Yeah, we'll listen to the episode, so they'll get the sneak peek.
Oh, very cool. And so this is season 2. Are you anticipating season 3? You had 7 deadly sins, 7 corporal works of mercy. Could be the 7 sacraments. If Cecilia and Dimitri get married, you could play that out.
Yeah,
First their marriage, then the baptism. Kind of journey with them as they raise their family. I don't
yeah.
know, just throwing out an idea there.
Yeah, seven
Um,
sacraments is interesting. Yeah, because anything with numbers, obviously the Catholic Church,
yeah.
we love our numbers. And so I've looked at Beatitudes or Ten Commandments, just different ones. But yeah, the sacraments is an interesting idea. Yeah, and holy orders, we already have Father Paul, so we can
Sure.
dive into something with him for that
It
episode.
could
Yeah,
be Father Paul finds a seminary recruit, and how he
yeah,
helps somebody discern the vocation or something. So,
yeah,
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 there's
yeah.
a lot there that you could do, continuing with Confessions of a Catholic Single. So you don't have to be single to listen to it, right?
Nor do you
Any
have to be
walk of
Catholic.
life.
You can. It's funny for everybody.
That's great. So very good. And it's a podcast, so that means there are different platforms people listen to podcasts on. A lot of people listen on Apple Podcasts. If you have an
Mhm,
iPhone, that comes standard. People listen on Spotify.
mhm,
There are other apps out there that I'm not all that familiar with, but it's also available on YouTube as well. Now, it's not like you seeing the people reading the script or anything. You kind of have different scenes as the scene changes, so does the image. So it's also available on YouTube, so people can
mhm.
listen there too. Um, yeah, so it's a great show. I listened to all 7 episodes for season 2 already, and I'll re-listen as you release them. Because what do? You release one a week?
Yeah, so episodes 1 and 2 will come out on, February 14th, and then every Wednesday after that, the new episode will come out. So, yeah, and like you say, it's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and then for people, because I used to not be as prolific, like, as a listener using these different apps, so I would only listen myself on YouTube for a while, and so I was like, "Okay, I know that there are people like me," so, yeah, I made it available there as well. So yeah, most places where people listen, we're there.
Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people listen to podcasts on YouTube. So much so that YouTube actually has like a podcast channel now
Mm,
for their creators and such. So it is a phenomena, even like in these interview style podcasts that you and I are doing right now. Like
yeah.
for some reason, people will watch it on YouTube, and I don't know if it's just kind of the background noise as they're working or
Mhm.
whatnot, but there is an audience for things like this on YouTube. So wonderful. So Confessions of a Catholic Single, go check it out wherever you listen to podcasts. The first season or the second season is releasing on the 14th of February, but you can go back now and listen to past episodes of season 1 and get all caught up before the season 2 release. So head on over,
Mhm.
Confessions of a Catholic Single. Make it your podcast binging for this weekend, preparing for season 2. Thanks so much, Erin Dooley, for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
If you liked today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. And don't forget to stay up to date with what Father Edward is doing by following him on Facebook, X, or Instagram at the handle at FREdwardLooney. Thanks for listening, and please join Father Edward again next time for another inspiring conversation.